The moment should have been perfect. Golden lanterns glowed above the red silk carpets, their light catching on the intricate embroidery of my wedding gown. The scent of peonies and sandalwood filled the air as I stood before the ancestral altar, waiting to become Baiqin's bride. Then, with one sentence, he shattered everything. "I cannot marry you." His voice carried clearly through the suddenly silent hall. I stared at him, the heavy phoenix crown weighing on my head as disbelief turned to white-hot rage. Before anyone could react, my foot lashed out, a perfectly aimed kick that sent my would-be husband sprawling onto the polished floor. Bad blood shows in poor manners, I spat, shaking with fury. If the son dares humiliate me like this, then let his father come explain himself. The crowd gasped as Bai Cheng, the imperial tutor himself, stepped forward. There was an unexpected dignity in his bearing that gave me pause. In that absurd moment, a wild thought crossed my mind. If the son proved unworthy, perhaps the father would do instead. Not that I needed either of them. As General Jiang Yuanshan's only daughter, with the Empress as my aunt and the merchant kingdoms under my uncle's control, I never wanted for anything. Money? Power? Those came as easily to me as breathing. But a suitable husband? That had remained frustratingly out of reach, a fact my father never ceased reminding me about. "You'll never match your mother's virtues," he'd sigh daily, until I could recite the words in my sleep. It was to escape his endless lectures that I'd first gone to Zuaxian Lu, where fate, or perhaps misfortune, led me to Baiqin. The irony wasn't lost on me. The son of my father's greatest enemy, yet the first man in the capital who actually listened when I spoke. His sharp mind and quiet humor had been unexpected pleasures, making the arranged marriage seem almost bearable. When he sent matchmakers the very next morning, I'd been cautiously pleased. Even our father's legendary feud couldn't stop the wedding, not when the emperor himself intervened, so desperate for peace that he gifted 30 carts of dowry treasures to seal the match. And now this. As the shocked murmurs of the crowd swirled around us, I tore off my heavy veil with shaking hands. "Where is my whip?" I demanded, turning in furious circles until my maid Sueshi caught my arm. "The general had it taken away, young miss," she whispered urgently. I raised my fist instead, but Sueshi held me back. "Violence will only make us look like the villains." Baiqin remained kneeling, his face pale but composed. "This is my failing," he said, his voice steady. "But neither of us chose this match. Wouldn't you prefer?" "You could have refused months ago," Sueshi suddenly shrieked, her outburst startling even me. "Why wait until the bridal procession reached your gates?" The silence that followed was more damning than any reply. Somewhere in the distance, I heard my father's guards beginning to disperse the gawking crowd, their armored footsteps echoing like a death knell for what should have been the happiest day of my life. "Are you trying to ruin my young mistress's reputation?" Sueshi's sharp voice cut through the tension. Baiqin's expression flickered with guilt, but as his gaze swept over the crowd held back by the general's guards, he seemed to find his courage. "I won't marry you today," he declared firmly. My eyes followed his line of sight, barely catching a glimpse of a young woman in pale pink skirts disappearing into the distance. Undoubtedly the reason for this sudden rejection. Though I wasn't book smart, I knew full well the consequences if this scandal escalated. The greatest damage would fall on me, potentially even affecting my aunt the Empress and uncle Emperor. My entire family's reputation hung in the balance. I forced my gaze away from Baiqin's mysterious love and back to the man himself. My not-so-brilliant mind began racing. Could this entire fiasco be orchestrated by my father's mortal enemy, Chancellor Baiqin? It made perfect sense. How could our families, as incompatible as fire and water, ever truly unite? A general's daughter becoming the Bai family's daughter-in-law? Never. Before I could stop myself, I shoved past the guards and delivered a sharp kick to Baiqin's calf, sending him sprawling again. Amidst his yelps, I calmly squatted down and grabbed his collar. As the saying goes, a father answers for his son's misdeeds. I hissed, "If you want to break the engagement, have your father come tell me himself." A guard at the gate didn't wait for orders before sprinting inside, screaming as if murder was imminent. "My lord, the young miss is going to kill our young master." Seizing the moment, I hiked up my skirts and pinned Bai Qin down, preventing the scrawny chicken from getting up. My contempt grew as he squirmed. "You dare show your face in public after this? You disgrace. Who's the real villain here, me or the man who humiliates his bride at the altar?" I instinctively reached for my whip before remembering father had confiscated it. "I'll scratch your pretty face off," I threatened instead. A loud shout interrupted us. "Enough!" Startled, I turned to see a figure in deep blue robes emerging from the Chancellor's residence, backlit by the sun. His features were indistinct until he knelt before me. Then I heard Bai Qin whimper from beneath me. Father?" I repeated dumbly. "Father?" The man spoke calmly. "Miss Jiang, such behavior before the wedding rites is hardly proper." "Who told you to agree?" I snapped, finally getting a proper look at his face. My words died in my throat.
He was breathtaking.
Youthful features that defied description, more celestial being than mortal man. "Wait, youthful? Who are you?" I demanded. Some imposter standing in for the real Bai Qin? Couldn't the great Chancellor face me himself after raising such an unfilial son? A faint smile touched his lips. "I am indeed Bai Qin's nominal father. My elder sister, fearing I'd die without heirs, adopted him to continue my line." My wedding-addled brain connected the dots. "So you're unmarried?" Before he could respond, I had an outrageous idea. Smoothing my rumpled wedding robes, I declared, "Very well. Tell me truthfully, did you orchestrate today's events?" "I knew nothing of this," he said calmly. "But I won't let you suffer this humiliation. I have a proposal." I cut him off, muttering, "If I can't marry the son, the father will do." The crowd gasped. I couldn't back down now. Returning home in disgrace would make me the laughingstock of the capital. Steeling myself, I announced loudly, "Chancellor Bai, since you have a conscience, why not marry me yourself? The arrow's been shot. We must follow through." Bai Cheng's eyes widened comically. Even Bai Qin stopped struggling beneath me, gaping at my audacity. "Young Miss Jiang," Bai Cheng said carefully, "perhaps we should discuss this." I clenched my fists until my knuckles cracked. "Agree, or I'll settle accounts with both father and son right now." Bai Qin finally wriggled free, dusting himself off with a cold laugh. "Jiang woman, don't embarrass yourself further. My father would never." "I accept." The world seemed to stop. Bai Qin looked ready to faint. Honestly, I'd been momentarily dazzled by Bai Cheng's beauty and acted impulsively. My threat was just to save face. Never did I expect him to agree. As I stood frozen, Bai Qin poked my cheek, nearly jabbing my eye. I stumbled forward, only for Bai Qin to catch me against his surprisingly firm chest. In my fluster, my disobedient hands groped him shamelessly. "Jiang woman," Bai Qin shrieked, "get your paws off my father." Mortified, I pushed away. Bai Qin was red-faced, thrashing about like a scalded cat. "You rejected me, yet protest my marrying your father? Could it be you actually care?" I taunted, advancing on him until Bai Cheng stepped between us. A thought struck me. Why had I never heard of this devastatingly handsome chancellor before? My aunt in the palace might not have seen him, but Uncle Emperor had arranged many matches for me. Knowing my preference for beautiful men, why hadn't he mentioned Bai Cheng? Then again, with how fiercely father and Bai Cheng opposed each other, perhaps this was fate's twisted joke. "Miss Jiang, wait a moment while I change," Bai Cheng said calmly before dragging Bai Qin inside by his collar. The younger man struggled like a fish on a hook, but couldn't break free. I smirked at the pitiful display. When Bai Cheng reappeared in fresh wedding robes, my breath caught. With his rosy lips and sparkling white teeth, his smile outshone the sun itself. At that moment, no one else existed in my world. It wasn't until after the ceremony that I noticed Bai Qin's absence. Not that I cared. Wherever Bai Cheng had stashed his adopted son, at least he wasn't interrupting our wedding night. Left alone in the bridal chamber while Bai Cheng entertained guests, my bravado began to waver. I'd only threatened him on impulse. Who knew he'd actually agree? My father always said never harm the children for their parents' feud. Yet here I was, married to his mortal enemy. I was debating whether to flee when the door opened. Bai Chung entered, still glowing in his wedding finery. "Say what you will," I blurted. "If father wants to beat someone, let him beat me. But I've set my heart on you, Bai Chung." After drinking the ceremonial wine and completing the hair-tying ritual, the maids withdrew with knowing smiles. I stared unblinking at my new husband. I'll admit, I'm lustful by nature, but always considered myself as demure as any proper lady. Yet seeing Bai Cheng's ears turn crimson, his cheeks flushing pink under my gaze. "Wife, why do you stare so?" he asked, fingers brushing his own cheek in a gesture that seemed calculated to tempt me. I gulped. "Are you serious about this marriage?" His eyebrow arched. "We've drunk the wedding wine. Do you wish to back out?" Panicked, I shook my head.
No.
"I just worry you might regret it." Visions of beheading both father and son if he tried to back out flashed through my mind. Seeking courage, I grabbed the wine jar and chugged directly from the spout. They say alcohol makes one bold. Not that I've ever needed liquid courage before. But facing this devastatingly handsome man left me strangely timid. When Bai Chung moved closer, I tore off 3 layers of robes in one motion, biting my lip before pushing him onto the bed. Chapter 2. The Mysterious Husband. I still don't understand how a man's skin could be softer than mine, or why he lacked even stubble. If not for accidentally brushing against that while undressing him, I'd have suspected he was a eunuch. Not that I discriminate, but every man I'd known, even my delicate scholarly cousins, had some facial hair. Damn this belt, I growled, struggling with the intricate knot. The wine haze or my impatience made it seem more complicated than the legendary 9 linked rings puzzle. With a frustrated yank, I finally tore it open. Bai Chung gasped as my fingers brushed his bare waist. "Wife," he chuckled, catching my wrist, his voice clear as a spring brook, "you seem quite experienced." Flushing, I scrambled up. "I'll be gentle. Just lie still. I know scholars aren't as robust as martial artists. Since childhood I've practiced." My words died as Bai Chung freed his belt with ease. His half-open underrobe teased me mercilessly. When I reached out, he caught my hand, only to guide my fingers to my own collar instead. "Allow me to teach you, wife," he murmured, smiling like a fox. I deeply regretted calling him weak. By midnight, I lay boneless as cooked noodles while Bai Chung, annoyingly energetic, called for hot water. As he carried me to the bath, I slurred. "You? No martial arts, too." He gently washed my hair. "I don't. I'll need my wife's protection from now on." I waved lazily, pleased despite knowing my skills paled compared to my father's. Not like a scholar needed much protecting anyway. I was wrong. Just as Bai Ching tucked me into bed, a black-clad assassin leaped through the window. Despite my aching body, I grabbed a chair and smashed it over the intruder's head. Before I could call for help, 7 more assassins poured in. One charged straight at Bai Chung with a dagger. My body moved before my brain, kicking the attacker away. "How brave, wife," Bai Chung praised calmly, as if discussing the weather rather than an assassination attempt. His composure fueled me. I fought like a demon, tossing the last assassin out the window just as guards, and a limping Bai Chin arrived. "Father, are you unharmed?" Bai Chin shouted from the doorway. Had Bai Ching not been sitting beside me pouring tea, I'd have thought him a ghost. "Who told you to come?" my husband said coldly. "Return to the ancestral hall and keep kneeling." As Bai Chin limped away, glaring daggers at me, I finally understood. He'd been punished earlier. I gestured to the window. "What about them? Don't you normally have patrols?" Bai Ching took the cup from my hand and poured me more wine. Just a small amount. "My fault," he admitted smoothly. Our wedding night made me drop my guard while investigating corruption cases. My stomach clenched. I knew about this. Father had always been soft on his subordinates. letting some take bribes. Not huge sums, but still. I balled my trembling fists. These assassins, they're not connected to father, right? Father-in-law covers for his men's flaws, but he's no criminal, Bai Cheng assured me. I exhaled, rubbing my chest, then froze.
Wait, does this mean you'll keep getting attacked?
His lips thinned as he leaned closer. Then I'll need my wife's protection. Relax. I preened, shamelessly enjoying his rare vulnerability. With me here, they won't lay a finger on you. The assassins clearly hadn't expected Bai Cheng to have a martial arts master like me guarding him. They stayed quiet for 2 days until the Huimen ceremony, newlyweds visiting the bride's family. In the carriage, my knees bounced nervously until Bai Cheng's large hand engulfed my clenched fist.
No panic.
I'm here. His voice inexplicably calmed me, though knowing father's temper, I still worried. The moment we arrived, father came roaring like a typhoon. Bai Cheng, you deserve death for kidnapping my daughter. I barely intercepted him as he brandished his spear. Father, what nonsense. Wasn't I supposed to marry Bai Cheng? Why call him old now? Bai Cheng's smile stiffened at old. He's not old, I snapped. Father looked ready to sob. You've been tricked. His son's grown. How can you defend him? Bai Chen's his nephew. The words tumbled out messy and fast. When father kept resisting, I shouted, Stop embarrassing me. Your daughter's not the loser here. I lowered my voice. His household has no concubines. I've hit the jackpot. Father's mood flipped instantly. Soon he was clapping Bai Cheng's shoulder, boasting, Now you're my son-in-law. Let's see Bai Cheng bully you in court. Bai Cheng nodded politely, though his eyes still held that infuriating, ill-do-a-please glint. On our return trip, a woman blocked our carriage. Bai Cheng yanked me against his chest before I could react. Don't panic. I'm not... I lied. Just ate too much. Might cramp my fighting. The driver called in. My lord, a lady claims to be young master, Bai Chen's friend requesting an audience. Before I could ask, isn't she the one who? Bai Cheng coldly refused. I frowned. Don't you want her with Bai Chen? A strange light flashed in his eyes as he nodded. Feeling oddly charitable, I thought, if not for her ruining my first wedding, I wouldn't have gotten Bai Cheng. Let her go to him, I suggested. Wife, don't interfere. Right then, I genuinely hoped Bai Chen would end up with her. But soon, I'd regret it so badly I'd wish to castrate him myself. 3 days later, a freshly freed Bai Chen came whining. With so many assassins, I can't protect father always. My maid Sueshi pinched my arm sharply.
Ow. What?
I turned to find Bai Chen holding an acupuncture pouch where Sueshi had stood. As I rubbed my sore shoulder, my fingers brushed cold metal, a silver hairpin. You dare. Darkness swallowed me mid-sentence. I woke bound in a ruined temple, horror stories of violated women here making my back drip cold sweat. That bastard Bai Chen. Awake? A woman's voice sneered behind me. A figure in pale pink robes circled into view, her attire oddly familiar. How shameless, she spat. Couldn't marry the son, so you settled for his father? I blinked blankly. Though quick to whip people, my beauty was famed second only to my aunts in the capital. What made Bai Chen choose her? She dragged a chair over, looming above me. A publicly humiliated woman should have killed herself or become a nun. How dare you marry Bai Cheng? I tilted my head. Wait, you wanted Bai Cheng? Not Bai Chen? She burst into screeching laughter. Hilarious. Only a country bumpkin like you would want that chick Bai Chen. Her face twisted. A man like Bai Cheng deserves someone unique like me. I cut in. We've completed the wedding rites. The sound of her teeth grinding echoed before she composed herself. Logically speaking, your existence poses no threat to me. The woman sneered, her fingers digging into my chin as she tilted my face left and right. A special woman like me, no man can resist my charm. Even if you've married Bai Cheng, replacing you would be child's play. But I'm petty. I refuse to share my man with any third or fourth wives. Don't blame me. Blame yourself for coveting what's mine. I had to admit she had some beauty, but her trembling hands betrayed her as a first-time killer when a dagger slid from her sleeve. I couldn't help but chuckle. "What's so funny?" she shrieked, face flushing. "How did you even convince Bai Qin to help you? Once you're dead, I'll write you a letter and burn it for you to read in hell." Clever girl, she'd noticed I was stalling. But too late. The dagger fell as I snapped the ropes I'd secretly sawed using a broken tile. The blade still grazed my ear. Hot pain, warm blood, but I rolled behind the crumbling earth god shrine just as chaos erupted outside. Bai Chung stood like a frost-edged sword in white robes, his blade pointed at the woman. Ailing. Bai Qin had called her. My husband's expression shattered when he saw my bleeding ear. This has nothing to do with ailing. Bai Qin threw himself between them. "If you want revenge, take it on me. Don't hurt her." I picked up Bai Cheng's dropped sword and leveled it at Bai Qin. "So, you really hate me enough to kill me?" "And no, I just wanted her to scare you into leaving father alone." "Listen here, you little." I jabbed the sword toward his thigh. "I'm your father's lawful wife now. Who are you to tell me to stay away?" I whirled to Bai Chung. "Did you approve this?" "Wife." "I had no part in this," he said meekly, offering his wrist for me to grip. I bit my lip, then slapped him. Tears welled in his unfairly beautiful eyes. Bai Qin shouted curses, but didn't dare approach, while Ailing suddenly caught my blade barehanded, blood dripping between her fingers. "Have you lost your mind?" I gaped. "You're the mad one," she screamed. "How dare you hit him?" "He's mine." "What?" The Bai father-son duo echoed in unison. Bai Qin paled. "Ailing, you said you liked me." She didn't even glance at him. Her gaze locked on Bai Chung behind me. "Chung, I only tolerated your son to get closer to you." Bai Qin looked like a kicked puppy. "You find me disgusting?" Playing the wicked stepmother. I nodded solemnly. "Frankly, a bit." As Bai Qin sputtered, I dropped the sword. Bai Chung stepped toward me, but Ailing intercepted him. "Chung, you do like me. Why deny it? You helped me at the palace." My eyes bulged. "Wait, are you Emperor Uncle's concubine?" Ignoring me, Ailing ranted. "Chung, I know money-making schemes. I can invent gunpowder. Just give me saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. Once I succeed, I'll make you emperor." Even Bai Qin looked horrified now. "Shut up. My father isn't a traitor." I raised a hand. "Hold on. Ailing, we already have gunpowder."
Impossible.
"You ancients couldn't," she froze. I sighed. "Girl, if you're ill, seek treatment." "You're the ill ones," she raged. "Other transmigrators get to romance the male lead. Why can't I?" "Male lead." I blinked. "You mean Emperor Uncle? He's the true, heaven's chosen son here." Her face twisted in disgust. "Him? That average-looking man?" I bristled. Emperor Uncle might not match Bai Cheng's looks, but he's no slouch. Why else would my aunt fancy him? "Guards." I finally called. "Take this lunatic away." The guards hesitated at the door, unmoving until Bai Chung snapped his fingers. When they finally dragged Ailing away, her screams faded into the distance. "You'll regret this, Bai Chung. I'll make sure she lives a life worse than death." Bai Chung massaged his temples, looking genuinely exhausted. I almost felt sorry for him until he suddenly fixed me with that fox-like gaze. "Wife," he said sweetly, "care to explain how a mere palace maid could escape the imperial grounds?" I crossed my arms. "Don't play dumb. You orchestrated this whole farce, didn't you?" Bai Qin, still nursing his wounded ego, finally spoke up. "Father, you've always monitored my every move. Why let me conspire with that madwoman? You even allowed me to call off the wedding." Bai Cheng's smile turned strained. He wiped sweat from his brow, a rare show of nervousness. "Remember last year, when you got drunk at the Empress's birthday banquet and slept in a tree?" My cheeks burned. That humiliating night. I was avoiding your father after our political quarrel, Bai Qing continued. Imagine my surprise when a certain little drunkard fell straight into my arms from that tree. Bai Qing visibly recoiled.
No.
Stop. I don't want to hear this. Your father knew too. Bai Qing pressed on. How else could I have married you otherwise? We planned everything. You what? I nearly choked. You and father, mortal enemies, collaborated? Bai Qing had the decency to look sheepish. About the martial arts, can we pretend you never saw?
No.
I raised a fist, remembering our wedding night, him lounging lazily while I fought assassins. But one look at his unfairly beautiful face, and my anger fizzled. Damn this man and his pretty privilege. Bai Cheng's POV, interlude. That day under the tree, she didn't remember, but I did. Her soft lips, that tiny waist, her terrible temper. She bit my lip, called me a handsome scoundrel, then proceeded to punch everywhere except my face. Can't ruin this divine visage, she'd slurred, groping me shamelessly. Might commit a capital offense. I returned her to the tree, then hid in the shadows until guards found her. Yet her fire-red silhouette burned into my mind. At night, I'd dream of those roaming hands. Then my damned nephew announced he wanted to marry her.
No.
Absolutely not. Enter Ailing, that delusional transmigrator. Perfect bait. I rescued her from bullying palace maids, who she'd insulted as lowlifes for enforcing hierarchy. When she ranted about being this world's female lead, I knew Bai Qing would fall for her dramatic flair. Everything went according to plan, until my wife almost died today.
Epilogue.
They found Ailing's body by the well. A suicide, they said. Perhaps she returned to her original world, Bai Qing murmured, stroking my hair as I dozed against his chest. I mumbled sleepily, You're still a scheming fox. His lips brushed my forehead. You're a scheming fox.
Outside.
Bai Qing wept over Ailing's favorite hairpin, unaware his father had ordered the palace stewards to assign her comfortable duties the night before. Some secrets are best left buried.